Hi, good morning, everybody. Just really quickly, I'm trying to get used to the virtual world that we're all living in right now. I'm sure we all are. Yeah. So if you could please, 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 one of the things that I thrive off of is interaction. And sadly, we don't have a ton of that right now. And having a bunch of people talking over each other, as I'm sure you've already experienced by now, doesn't work. So if you could jump in the chat section, make sure that you're responding to everyone. And there'll be a couple group questions I really want us to tune into today. Also, just want to give everybody a heads up. As Kayla said, we're all in our homes. In my home, I do so happen to reside with a dog who is a hound and howls. So if you hear that, please excuse him. He doesn't know any better. Okay, so self-care with girls in the game. Let's get started. Okay. The first question that I have for the group, how are you feeling right now? Just let's put some words to how we're feeling. Can you just jump on the group section and the chat section? Let's write that out. How are we feeling right now? You need a minute to think about it. Go ahead. Just go ahead. Let's see if I can get some chats. Let me pull up the chat function here. Overwhelmed and optimistic, frustrated, yeah. Frazzled, oh, same. Often. Okay, blah. Okay. Okay, not nearly as rested. Calm. Okay. Focus, overwhelmed. Cool. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. And, this is an open, free space, so feel free to keep sharing if you want to and if you need to. Okay. So now that we acknowledge how we felt, we had our check-in, right? Our check-in, how are we doing? I will personally share with you, I woke up energized this morning, not because I necessarily planned to be, just I get really nervous before presentations, even though it's my job. And I'm just like, okay, let's get ready. Okay, so let's talk about the elephant in the room right now. We are living through a pandemic. This is a stressful time. Coronavirus. Some people have different nicknames for it. I happen to work with teenagers. I have heard it called COVID-19, obviously, coronavirus. The Rona is new. Auntie Rona is something else that I heard. Lots of nicknames. If you have heard of any more, please humor me. Put them in the group chat. And let's talk about what this pandemic means for how we're feeling right now. So the last pandemic that we lived through, and if there are any history teachers on here, please let me know if I am wrong, but was 1918, like Spanish influenza, what they called Spanish influenza, and it's the H1N1 virus, and it decimated many countries. And I think just to take a moment and realize this is not normal. We are adapting, we are adjusting. We're lucky enough to have technology today, but it's not a normal circumstance. This is not a normal situation, and we happen to be living through it. We also, due to technology, we have access to worldwide news all the time, and it's hard to tune out. I know that as educators, as people that work within school systems, it is part of your job to keep attuned to what is happening in the news, what is happening with each other. So you can't just check out. So also, you're receiving all this extra information and you're taking it all in, and it's hard to build your wall to be like, okay, like I'm gonna look away now. It's easy to keep going and keep going. I don't know if anybody sits on their phone and starts scrolling and looking at news articles, Facebook. You keep scrolling, you see a bunch of things that you're like, oh, let me click on this. What is happening in Georgia? Who knows? But just different things that are happening right now, and it's hard to put a stop to it sometimes. Um, so again, this is a traumatic experience that we're all living in. And I thought that maybe we could talk about what trauma does to our bodies. So trauma kind of makes us, so what we call the reptilian brain. So the oldest part of our brain, it makes that become the main decision maker. So that's your fight, flight, or freeze response, right? So it impacts our decision making, it impacts how we deal with things, it impacts how we just move around each day. We are living in a world where people are not doing well. People are dying and people are suffering. So it, especially at your level, you are so attuned to it that you're probably noticing it more than anything. You're feeling little stressful spots on your shoulders, you're feeling it on your back, on your hips maybe, and you're just like, oh, it's just aches. It's just I'm leaning over too much while I'm working from home. But it all, trauma impacts our body physically, impacts our mental, it's all linked. Um, Trauma also impacts how we function in our ability to self-regulate. So if we are experiencing um, sadness, if we are experiencing stress, it's hard to bring ourselves down to a level that we're like, okay, I'm okay now, I can chill. You're having a harder time doing that, and that's normal. Your body is reacting to trauma. It also, during this time, sadly, it impacts our ability to create meaningful and lasting connections and relationships. Who would have thought right now that we need those connections and relationships more than ever? It's when we're struggling to do it the most, because it's 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 just what's happening in the world right now. And also trauma, the way that it impacts our brain, it's hard for us to see a brighter future, a hope for the future, because we're so focused on what is happening in the now. So it might be harder to think about summer. What's summer going to look like, without necessarily going down into a spiral of like, oh my gosh, what is summer going to look like? I know personally, I was just thinking about this. Girls in the Game has a summer camp. And we're like, okay, like it's like, well, let's start planning for summer. And all that I kept thinking is like, I don't know. Will we have a summer? I mean, Chicago summers, I think it's what we all look forward to every year. And the thought of not having it this year, I mean, it's shocking. And it's really sad. Um, and to move forward, you're allowed to feel all the feels. You are allowed to feel sad. You're allowed to feel anxious. Anxiety is thought of as this big word that has so much negative connotation attached to it. But in reality, we all feel anxiety to some degree. It's when it takes over our emotions and takes over our functioning that it becomes a problem. You're not living through a normal situation. You cannot be expected to just roll with the punches all the time. Be kind to yourself. Be gracious. Okay. Okay. Self-compassion is self-empowerment. So going along with the last slide, it's just give yourself margin for error. I know that some of you guys are out there kicking, butt all the time and killing it and taking action. Admire you all. Think that is great. It's okay to not be like that all the time right now. You're going through a lot right now. Give yourself a break. Be kind to yourself. Check in. How are you feeling? At the beginning of this, we checked in with ourselves and thought, okay, like this is how I feel. But how many times are you actually doing that on an individual basis without somebody prompting you to do it? How many times throughout the day are you like, okay, this is what I actually want to do. I don't want to do that. Um, on here, I said avoid the productivity Olympics. I don't know if you guys have seen, there are lots of memes, a lot of posts out there that are saying like, now's your time, write your book. You have more time now than ever. It was never a lack of time, it was a lack of passion. And if you want to write a book, go for it. But if you want to sit on the couch, do that too. If you want to work out today and not tomorrow, do it. Just because all of a sudden workout videos are on every social platform right now and everybody now has become a fitness influencer, doesn't mean that you necessarily have to jump on the bandwagon and get your quote unquote summer body, which don't even get me started on what a summer body is. I think a body is a body. But just be gracious with yourself. Check in. If you feel guilty about, I don't know, taking, eating all the extra cookie dough or in the freezer, or if you decided, I don't know if anybody has jumped on the trend of baking bread. I don't know why that has become a thing lately, but everybody's making their own bread. Go for it. And you eat the whole loaf? Okay. Like, yes, check in with yourself. Everything in excess is not necessarily good, but also give yourself a little bit of room to breathe, to allow yourself to take in everything that you need to take in, allow yourself the ability to check in with yourself. Sound good? Okay. Next. Okay. I have a quick meditation activity. So I don't know if anybody else has done meditation. I recommend it. Meditation looks very differently to different people, and we'll talk about that a little bit at the end. But right now we're going to do a self-guided, we're going to do a guided meditation. That'll be easier. So if you could sit comfortably in a chair, hopefully, or in something that you can, both of your feet can touch the ground. And if you could place your hands on your lap, face down. Feel the ground beneath, okay? If you feel comfortable enough, go ahead and close your eyes. Find some way that you can truly rest wherever it is that you're seated. If you are not as comfortable with closing your eyes, that's okay. Simply just look down. Look to something that might be on your lap. Maybe it is your lap. Maybe it's your hands. Maybe if you're in the middle of reading a report, put that report on your lap and just think about that. Okay? So I'll give you all a couple seconds to get into the right mode, right mentality. Okay. I see some people shaking their head, moving their neck. That's great. Okay. So as we start getting grounded, feel the ground beneath your feet. What does it feel like? Does it feel firm? Do you feel pressure? What about your back? Is it resting against a chair? Is it resting against the back of a couch? Is it soft? Is it hard? Do you feel yourself slouching down? Okay. What about your hands? What do they feel? Are they feeling a rough texture? Are you wearing jeans? Are you wearing nice cozy sweats? What does that feel like? Take a couple seconds. And during this meditation, it is completely normal to run against different thoughts. What we want to do with those thoughts is acknowledge them, acknowledge that they're there, and move past them. We want to create a sense of clarity. So we want to be focused on the here, the now. How are you feeling? How are you doing? You're just standing in space, sitting in space, and holding time and holding space for yourself right now. Nothing else is happening. This is time for you. We'll take about a minute of this, and then I'll start to slowly talk us out of this meditative pose. Okay, let's start bringing some life back to our bodies. Slowly start wiggling your fingers, maybe your toes. Shake it out, move your shoulders around. Do a little shifting of the weight back and forth. Seeing how your body feels. Hopefully your body feels a little bit more rested, a little bit more in tune. Meditation allows you the space to create clarity for thinking about bigger things. It allows you the space to activate your more creative mind. It allows you the space to check in with yourself and how you're doing in a more physical level. Body scans are amazing. That's a whole different subject that we can talk about. But now that we have reached the space, let's open our eyes, let's look up, and let's talk about visualization. So I want you all to think about what inspires you to do the work that you do. Is it a person? Is it somebody that inspires you? Maybe you have a long line of educators, of people who were counselors, maybe. Is it a bigger systemic issue that propels you forward? What is it that inspires you and why? If you feel comfortable at this point sharing some of your thoughts and ideas, maybe it's a name, no need to go into specifics, or if you want to go into specifics, shout them out, put it in the group chat. Let's talk about it. I would love to see some of the people that inspire you personally. I'll open the chat. We'll take about a minute to do this. Just who inspires you? This is setting us up for our next exercise. One of our next exercises. Okay. Okay. We'll move on now. So what we just went through was the yes and model. I'm sure you all are familiar with it. Acknowledging how you're feeling, acknowledging what you're experiencing, what is happening in life, and being like, yes, and I still show up for the people that I need to show up for on a daily basis. Yes, and I'm still going to keep doing what I do, and I'm going to keep taking care of myself. Yes, there is a pandemic, and I still have to go teach a classroom of children. The yes and model can be truly powerful, and can help reset your mind and help you activate your most creative thinking. So what I have here is we're going to talk about spreading joy. This is a homework exercise. So one of the last things that we're going to do is talk about the power of joy. And joy is super important to think about, especially during these times. And acknowledge that joy isn't necessarily happiness, and happiness isn't necessarily joy. One can lead to the other, but moments of joy are these little bursts of happiness. Happiness is more of like a long-term thing. Joy is a short burst. And the power of joy, oh, it goes on and on. There are health and research studies that link joy to continued health, especially within the cardiovascular system, to help you recover from stress. It promotes resilience, and it promotes your ability to get through really difficult times. It also increases your sense of connection. So where we saw that trauma and stress cause us to disconnect, especially from those that we care about, joy actually helps us connect to others and to ourselves. So I'm going to pose it to you. What are you doing to bring you joy? What are you bringing into your life to bring you joy? If you could jump on the comment section, I would love it to see some of your responses. I also think we can all learn from each other. I will share that personally, something that has brought me joy has been buying plants. I don't know why. Well, actually, there's research that says that bringing plant life into your house or being more exposed to nature is good for you. And obviously, you can't always go outside all the time. I personally live in the city. It's not easy to go outside all the time, so it's easier to bring plants in. I know some of my friends have been cooking some of their favorite recipes. How are you creating joy in your life currently? Are you finally redecorating a specific room in your house? Are you baking bread? Maybe you're one of the people that's baking bread right now. Let's see. Um, let's see. Plants. Okay. Somebody else on the plant train with me. Baking and bad TV. Hey, 90 Day Fiance. Have had it recommended to me. Have not watched yet. Early morning walks. Wow, that's beautiful. I wish I could wake up early enough to take early morning walks. I want to be that person. Cleaning or reorganizing, exercising. Yes, moving your body, giving yourself time to get up and move. It doesn't have to be a 90-minute HIIT training series or 30 minutes of yoga. give yourself time to just get up, move around, walk around your apartment, take the stairs maybe. Rearranging closet, nice. Ooh, I see here, 3 kids cooking and take turns cooking dinner with each one of the kids. That's awesome. Awesome. Okay. So actually, I'm gonna go back to this slide. So I have a challenge for you. In a true girls in the game nature, one thing that we do is we like to promote spreading joy, but also spreading energy, just energy, good energy out into the world. So I loved learning more how each one of you is creating joy for yourselves. I want you all to create joy for someone else. Why? Because emotions are contagious, good ones and bad ones. But hopefully, let's try to spread some good energy out into the world. So I want everybody to think of someone that they really admire, somebody that they really care about, somebody that just is special to you. Give them a compliment. Maybe it's a text, maybe it's an email. If it's a partner or your kid, write them a little note. There's nothing quite as special as receiving a little bit of good energy from someone else. And trust me, when you think of it today, afterwards, it'll make you feel good just thinking back on it. Yeah. Also, last but not, one of the last things that I want to put out here is I know the good people at communities and schools are starting to these self-care sessions for you. We would love to know what you want to get out of these self-care sessions. Do you want to move your bodies? Do you want yoga? Do you want a hip, quick, like high energy burning workout? Do you want to check in? Do you want to talk with one another? I think that these sessions are great, but they really are aimed and tailored to you and what works best for you. And I think that communities and schools want to know what you all would prefer to have during these sessions. So if you all could put your comments on the chat, that'd be great.